get my shit together real quick. All right. Welcome to Murder of Mayhem with
Justin
and Amanda. Thank you for joining us this evening, folks.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you, honey?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
I'm doing so great.
All right, then. Moving on.
Today, our story is about the fast food killer, which he actually was born in Richland Hills, Texas, but he was primarily a spree was in Tennessee. Paul Reid, born November 12th, 1957. As a kid, he actually came out with congenital brain damage.
Right.
His left ear didn't form like it was supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So they thought that his left temporal lobe might not have developed like it was supposed to, basically, causing his ear to be the way it was. A lot of these that we've done so far, I think one of the main links in them is brain damage.
See, and that's it's such a gray area for me now that we've covered so many cases with brain damage. It just seems like such a gray area.
It kind of makes you feel mixed.
Right. I do feel mixed about it.
Yeah. Paul Dennis Reid Sr. was his dad. Mostly a drunk. He held very many jobs. He was a security guard, a private investigator at one time, too.
Shut up.
Obviously, not a very good one. He didn't see that one coming, so.
Ooh. He grew up in a totally dysfunctional family.
He was actually sent to live with his grandmother at a young age because his parents split. His dad just couldn't hack it. His grandmother was Josephine. Josephine Reid.
But her dad's name was Joseph.
Yes.
Really?
I believe so.
Damn.
I read through it and tried to trace it back, but
Good guess.
I couldn't tell you 100% honestly because my memory's crap.
Yeah, epilepsy.
But
Brain damage.
Josephine was, from Paul's accounts at least, she was a very conservative and religious lady, was very strict. And Paul was very hard to control, as you would imagine.
So what did he get into? You got a whole mess.
It was a whole mess.
Oh, but
whenever he was to go to his grandmother's house, he was young. We're talking like 3-4 years old, okay? She still could not get a hold on him. He would go around the neighborhood causing trouble, stealing things, even clothes off the line, just to do it. Yeah, just to do it. About 4 years old, maybe.
Wow.
He stole a man's wallet by 4.
Damn.
Yeah. Already into petty thievery and stuff like that.
Kid.
Yeah. But Josephine, on the other hand, wasn't necessarily grandmother of the year either. She took time to a chair to keep him from getting out and getting into things.
What the hell?
Yeah, I imagine that made it better, I'm sure. Yeah. Actually tried to light her on fire when he was 5 years old. She woke up smelling smoke and the end of her blanket being on fire.
Hitler was once a child. Once again.
Yeah. It was a lot to handle. By the time he was 6 or 7, he threw a salt shaker at his grandma and hit her really good, I imagine. And she just became sick of his shit, I guess.
She had a TBI after that.
Yeah, he gave her a TBI shit. Yeah, her and her dad tried to send him into the system, basically, to make him a ward of the state. So his dad and his grandmother, sick of all his stuff, sick of his shenanigans, which he was a young kid.
Yeah, he was only 5 and they were already like, man, this one's defective. We're going to send him back.
Basically.
I want to know, like, what the people are like that they actually institutionalize. It's like such a gray area because aren't all criminals, like, they pretty much have something wrong with their brain. At this point, I'm convinced.
If you're doing something violent to another person, chances are, unless it's just a heat of the moment kind of thing, if you're premeditating it, there's probably something wrong with you. Definitely.
But like, I just don't understand. Like, they'll put them in jail and stuff or prison and they'll give them medication. They'll be like, oh yeah, you're definitely mentally ill.
They wanted to make him a ward of the state. But
what does that mean?
Basically, they would send him to a home.
So he was mentally ill.
They wanted to send him to a home, like basically like a foster child. It was a place for kids that were undesirables.
He just wanted to, right. Golly.
Had mental illness. More like a jail of sorts, you would say, almost. He never made it over there. His mother did not sign off for him to be a ward of the state, and she ended up taking him.
Really?
Yes. He stayed with his mother and his father for many years. Kind of bounced back and forth. So he stayed with his mother for long enough, and this was towards his teen years or so. He had 2 sisters that came after him. His mom had several boyfriends. There's not really a whole lot of information on exactly what was happening in the house at that time, but there were some records that there was some sexual violence going on in that house. but I couldn't honestly tell you exactly who it was or who it was towards or anything like that. Well, there were records of it, but there
were records?
Since they were minors at the time,
Gotcha.
You can't.
Sealed.
Yeah.
You'll never see.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
He stayed over at his mom's mostly. Whenever he got a little bit older, he started actually hanging out with his aunt and getting high.
Golly.
Yeah. He actually ended up getting kicked out of his aunt's because he was sexually harassing her.
Ooh.
Yeah, his aunt. Now, this would become a trend because after this, he was basically into a lot of petty crime. He was eventually arrested for auto theft. But it was a culmination of things that ended up putting him in juvie. So
he was just a bad boy.
He was a bad boy, yes. He was actually kicked out of his mom's house for doing the same thing. Sexually harassing his mom and his sisters.
His mom and his sisters. That's disgusting.
Yes. He really knew no bounds.
Obviously.
He killed animals as a child, too. Another sign of a serial killer.
There we go.
Yeah.
Man, the signs are all there. Why?
Really too much information on exactly when he graduated, but it does say that he got his GED.
He did.
So I'm going to guess that he struggled a little bit and then finally decided to go back and get his GED. He finally met his wife in 1979. Her name was Jessica Neal.
Okay.
All of his sisters tried to convince her to not marry him.
Don't do it.
They were like, dude, no.
I know that feeling.
Trust me, don't do it. Don't do it. But Jessica did it anyway. She got married to him. Bad idea. He was very controlling, very abusive. There was a lot of times when he'd even lock her up in the house and take out any kind of communication devices she would have. So she wouldn't be able to contact anyone and she wouldn't be able to get out. And he would know exactly where she was at. Even stalking her and everything else. Yes.
So some Diddy shit.
Oh, yeah. He was terrible. Terrible.
No, baby oil.
Whenever he was married to Jessica Neal, for some reason, Paul got into watermelon farming. Out of all things, he got into watermelon farming. In true Paul Dennis Reid style, he did not do this legally.
How can you watermelon farm illegally?
By stealing all the supplies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, once they saw his watermelon farm in town and somehow all the supplies to make a watermelon farm were disappearing, it's not really too hard to put two and two together.
No brainer.
He was in and out of scrapes of the law. Constantly.
Yeah. Sorry, he was just, I'm going to make some watermelon money.
Yeah, he met up with a childhood friend and they were fueling each other, basically, to bounce off each other.
Sometimes, like, they just have that catalyst, like, and it's usually, like, a best friend.
They started knocking off grocery stores, basically. They knew exactly where the safes were at, so they break in, come in and get the cash and get out. It wasn't until they robbed a steakhouse that they decided to do an armed robbery.
Steakhouse, huh?
Yeah, they came in there waving a gun around, tried to rob this steakhouse. But ultimately, they were unsuccessful. They ended up getting caught. This was in 1983. This is his first conviction. With his armed robbery, the whole thing is egregious as it was. They sent him to 20 years. Sentenced him to 20 years.
So 20 years. Bam. You're in the clinker.
Well, he had a psychological evaluation whenever he came into the prison, which the evaluation basically said that he was very mentally unstable. He was prone to fits of rage due to all the brain damage that he had had, including being hit with a brick as a kid. No shit. So they deemed him very violent in that he was a danger to society. 100%.
Yeah.
So 7 years into his sentence, right? Guess what happens?
They let him out due to overcrowding. Am I correct?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Damn.
Yet again. The courts let him out. And even the state psychiatrists let them know multitude of times that he should not be let out, that he was a danger to society and should stay institutionalized.
They didn't listen.
They didn't listen. They let him out. They totally let him out.
Bye, Paul.
Yep.
Have a good time.
Got on parole.
He was on parole.
Yep.
He didn't act right. You already know.
Well, he moved back to Houston, became a textile truck driver. So he would drive textiles around. I'm pretty sure it was probably local. I don't think he could go long haul or anything like that, being as he was on parole and having to meet with a parole officer once a month. You could probably get away with not getting a background check.
They didn't have all that back then.
I think it actually noted at some point that he used a different birthday so his background wouldn't come up.
Which is funny because we were looking around and there were 2 different birthdays for him at one point, but we narrowed it down and it's definitely November 12th, 1957.
Yeah. After becoming a long haul truck driver, being a good boy for a while,
Not a bad boy anymore.
He finally decided that he was going to follow his big dream.
What was his big dream?
He wanted to become a country music star.
Right.
Singing them songs about his wife leaving him. His big truck dog died.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He wanted to become a big country music star.
Was he successful?
He wasn't very successful, but what happened? He really tried. He moved to Oklahoma first, actually. But this was after he ended up being in an accident as the truck driver. He was in an unfortunate accident.
Really?
It doesn't provide very many details on exactly what the accident was or what happened to him, but he got a settlement of about $25,000 to $30,000.
Nice.
He spent it all on plastic surgery and then music school. He got a nose job. Let's see what else. He got skin grafts, I believe.
This seems extremely mentally
Other plastic surgery. You can look it up.
Maybe he was trying to just change his appearance completely because he got sick of the person he was before.
I guess so. He stayed in Oklahoma for a little bit, did music school, worked at a bakery. He even started seeing a girl over there, but she said that he was very creepy. He had a very bad temper. And at some point or another, she said that he seemed to show some interest in her 5-year-old daughter.
Ooh.
So that was a deuces, for sure.
Yeah, that would have been it for me.
After that, he decided that since he was going to pursue his big dream as a country music star, and he had gotten his music lessons and honed his singing voice in and his guitar playing skills, he's going to move to Nashville, Tennessee. Before he left from Houston, he went around with his former landlord. He wrote a 13-page manifesto. He got 400 envelopes, made copies of it, and stuffed every single envelope with it.
What did it say?
Yeah, basically talking about how he was being controlled by the government through his mind and soul, and that he was being spied on 24/7, and that his mind was telling him to commit violent crimes and things of this sort.
So that seems like schizophrenia to me.
Yeah, he was handing them out to people on the street, in the courthouse, telling them to forward it to the governor and the Washington Post.
Oh, he was definitely paranoid and delusional.
So obviously, people did not take him seriously. Like, pretty much all these letters ended up in the trash. So it's almost comical. I feel kind of bad for the guy because he really put himself out there and he didn't get anywhere, but he was kind of delusional. He did a lot of things to make himself feel like he was a country music star, it seemed like. He bought expensive guitars. He got music lessons.
He just blew all that money.
Yeah, the plastic surgery and everything to look better, I guess he thought.
I feel like that's the equivalent of a woman cutting her bangs during a crisis.
He even changed his name, like at least his stage name, to Justin Parks because he thought it sounded better.
All right.
He did pick a pretty good name, I have to say.
Load.
Paul just didn't make it.
He didn't make
People said that he very much looked the part. He looked great, but
I'm sure
once he opened his mouth, that all went away.
Oh,
it sounded terrible. So while working on his music career, and I guess his voice at that point, he got a small-time job over at a Shoney's. The Shoney's that he worked there for a short time, really. He ended up losing his temper over there, and he threw a plate at a Filipino woman. Yeah.
Damn.
So he got fired, obviously. Yeah. The very next day is when all this starts. Everything. I think he just gave up at that point.
He just snapped. He's like, fuck it, my music sucks. I changed all this. My face, my name, like nothing's working out for me.
Maybe he was just so frustrated at that point. He was just like, fuck it.
Fuck it all. Yeah.
I'll get money the way I have to if I need to. Next day, he went to a Captain D's.
Right.
First thing in the morning.
Right.
Acting like he needed a job. They weren't even open yet. There was a Sarah Jackson and Steve Hampton over there. He came up to the door, knocked on it. Steve finally come to the door. He was asking him about a job.
Okay.
He's a pretty slick guy, I have to say. He came at different times, really. I think the last two, actually, he got them at closing time. There were only 2 employees working whenever he robbed the Captain D's.
Right. Who was there at the time was Steve Hampton. He was 25 at the time. He was the Captain D's manager. Steve was a known and dedicated worker and a family man. He was working very hard to support his family.
Yep.
And then there was a Sarah Jackson who was just 16 years old.
Yep.
Sarah was a high school student who was working at Captain D's part-time. She was said to be a very bright and shining girl. She had a promising future, doing well, you know, for a 16-year-old. Seemed like
very nice girl
got a
by all
job.
accounts.
Yeah.
So at Captain D's, he ended up coming up there right before they opened. He knocked on the door where Steve Hampton, 25, and Sarah Jackson, who was 16, were working.
So sad.
He got in wanting an application. Steve let him in, went to go get an application, and before he could even get an application, he had pulled out a 25 caliber revolver, which is a rare load, just to let you know if you don't know guns. But 25 caliber is pretty rare. So as soon as he did that, he obviously demanded that they open the cash register and the safe. Steve tried to stop him, pulled out his wallet even, and tried to give him $600 that was in his wallet. If he would just go and take the money.
Right.
He did take the money. He took the money, the register, the safe, and then he led him to the back in the storeroom. And he told them to lay down. And as soon as they laid down, he shot them both execution style in the head.
Yeah. That's rough.
Actually, he shot Steve Jackson with 1 shot. Sarah was a different story. He shot at her 3 times, grazed her skull twice. Third one struck her in the spine. He didn't know this. She was, I guess, half paralyzed. Well, while he was cleaning up and getting the rest of his money and getting ready to get out, he happened to notice out of the corner of his eye that she was still moving. So he went and put the 4th and final bullet into her head, finally executing her.
Terrible, terrible. It really made people, you know, kind of scared.
Well, they were scared because he done it in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Just came straight in, killed 2 people, and left.
He gave no fucks.
Yeah. The reason he did this way was because he vowed never to go back to prison again and get caught the same way that he did. So he said basically that he was going to leave no witnesses behind. And he made good on that.
Well, so far. So Captain D's, I mean, he just went in there and he obliterated and
got about $7,500, I think, something like that.
That's it.
Well, he took the money, paid for a down payment on a brand new car.
A brand new car.
The red car. It doesn't say specifically exactly which make and model it is, which sucked. I really wanted to know that for some odd reason. But if you guys ever find it, if you see it, if you know because you know the story, send it to me. Let me know.
Just the car. That's all we care about.
I just want to know which car
we
it
only
was
care
exactly.
About please.
But yeah, so he would wait for about a month before the next thing were to happen. The next shooting would be at a McDonald's.
Yeah. And the McDonald's, that is so sad because it wasn't just 2 people there.
There were 4 people there, actually.
And their names were Andrea Brown, who was 17 at the time. She was a part-time employee, and she was also known to be cheerful and lit up the room. She was working to save money for college, and she was well loved by her friends and family. There was another victim. His name was Ronald Santiago. He was 27 at the time. He was a part-time employee. And he was working at the McDonald's to support himself and was known for being kind-hearted and hardworking. Robert Sewell, who was only 23 at the time. Nobody likes you when you're 23. Nobody likes you when you're 23.
Exactly.
Yeah. Robert was described also as friendly, and he was well liked by his coworkers.
Very kind-hearted.
Then we have a Jose Ramirez Gonzalez.
It doesn't say how old Jose was in any report that I've found at all so far. Correct. I want to go back to something before I talk about exactly what happened. Yeah. Because it was really interesting to me that I found this information, and I thought I want to share it with you guys too. To start off with, Ronald's brother had this crazy dream, and this was a long time ago, guys. We're talking about 7-8 years before this happened. He had this crazy dream that Ronald would be working in that McDonald's and a robbery would happen and he would be killed.
Yeah, that's
Not
wild.
joking. He was so serious about this dream and it was so vivid that he made him quit McDonald's.
Really?
Which he did. He quit McDonald's.
But he went back.
He worked up another place, various jobs, and then ended up back at the same McDonald's.
Should have stayed away.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Andrea Brown. That one was crazy as well. And I thought this was just such a crazy connection because she also had a dream reportedly 2 weeks beforehand or so.
No shit.
Very vivid about her dying in a robbery in that store.
Some weird clairvoyant stuff going on there.
Such a coincidence. Like odd, yes, very strange.
Very odd. Very odd. Yeah. That they would be having dreams about the same. There's
another thing too that was super crazy. Jose, that was his first day on the job.
Man, can you imagine? Day. Yeah. First day.
Yeah.
Paul Reid walks in the door.
Jose had also just been taught before Paul came in the door how to call 911 in case there was an emergency. And I know maybe that sounds small to y'all, but you got to understand, he was from another country. He could barely speak English. He needed to be told exactly what to do in this country. So he was just taught how to call 911 just in case there was an emergency.
Yeah. And they had already kind of had a buzz about like fast food restaurants being robbed anyway. So
everybody was on alert for sure.
The cops were already like, okay, guys, like, let's buckle it down. Make sure you know the emergency protocol.
He came in around closing time when he saw everybody cleaning up. Whenever he came in the door, of course, first thing, he pulls out his gun. Yeah. Pulls everyone up, tells them all to go to the storeroom. He demands money out of the safe and makes them go and get the money out of the safe for him. Once he gets the money out of the safe and out of the register, same MO. He gets them all in the storeroom, except for Jose.
What about Jose?
All the shooting starts. He takes out 3 of them: Andrea, Ronald, and Robert.
Okay.
But then runs out of bullets.
Ooh, Jose got away, huh?
So Jose almost got away. He fought back really good, but Paul ended up overpowering. He's a big dude. And he stabbed him 17 times.
Damn.
Now, here's the crazy part. He played dead, waited till Paul left, called 911, and he survived.
I wonder if that knife was just shallow or something.
It may have been.
I mean, how can you get stabbed 17 times and live?
Divine intervention, man.
Seriously.
17 times and it didn't hit one vital organ, y'all.
Had to have been a shallow knife.
Yeah.
I would like
shallow knife,
2-3 inch, like little pocket knife.
You
or
almost
something.
bled out.
Really?
Yeah, he was in bad shape.
Yeah,
they could get him to communicate a little bit, but it was just like with his finger or something like that. Yeah,
and he gave police the best description he could possibly give them at the time.
Yeah, he couldn't do much better than to just basically communicate with his finger on whether this was what he looked like or that was what he looked like.
Right. And the police sketch, the police sketch was pretty dead on, really.
Yeah. He ended up actually being a very integral part of the investigation later on and the trial. And they struggled.
I always love a good fight story and a good survivor story. God, it's great.
But we'll put some pictures up here, I'm sure. But you'll see this dude. He's big as fuck, man. He could definitely overpower me or anybody else that I know for the most part. No neck having motherfucker. I'm telling you. He has got no neck, y'all. You look at the pictures, he's got no neck. Yeah,
it's pretty bad.
So yeah, he overpowered Jose and killed 3 people in the McDonald's. He knew they were on to him, so I guess he was trying to lay low. They actually even did things so far as to go around to different fast food restaurants and they would have the employees put a sticker in the back of their car. That way they would know if there was anybody else there that wasn't an employee. And they would stake out the parking lots.
Nice. Nice. But he could probably put a sticker on his car too. I mean,
yeah, I could see where that would be kind of obvious what was going on.
Not too smart.
And like I said, he knew they were onto him, so he just waited.
Yeah.
For about 1 month exactly to the day.
He couldn't wait that damn long then. 1 month?
1 month to the day.
Oof.
So that 1 month to the day, he ended up robbing a Baskin Robbins. Now, there were 2 people working in there.
Michelle Mace, who was 16 at the time, part-time employee. Michelle was a high school student, and she was known for her vibrant personality. Once again, lit up the room. She was super funny too, from all accounts. They're young, 16-year-olds, getting like a $200 paycheck probably every week.
I remember.
Yeah. Oh, they were happy. This is big money to them, you know.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, they're saving up for the world. The next victim was Angela Holmes. She was 21 years old. Also a very vibrant soul, from all accounts. She had a warm personality, and she was looking forward to her future. She was an aspiring woman and a victim.
Another cool fact, just to let you know, and these are all over these for some reason, but in the morning before she left, she actually showed her husband where to find her important documents in case something were to happen to her, and also fixed 3 meals in advance in case something happened. Wow.
What is with these? They seem to kind of have these gut feelings.
Yeah, it's like they got ESPN, man.
ESPN. Exactly.
Yeah.
He came in about, what, 9:30? They were closing?
Yeah, they were closing up. You could see like one light on, and that was it. He stood at the door for a good minute, and Michelle decided to let him in.
Oh, Michelle, honey.
As soon as he came in the door, he pulled out the gun. Same thing as he always does. Marched him back to the storeroom, had him sit down, kneel down, went to go and taking the money out and everything else. Well, he heard Michelle say that she was going to get picked up by her brother. So he decided, first thing, he might as well go ahead and tie these girls up.
Yeah.
Throw them in his car really quick and get the fuck out of there.
So he actually escaped with these ones. And these girls were with him.
Yeah. He took them down to Dunbar National Park.
Right.
He got Angela, first off, slit her throat, and just let her drop. Michelle almost got away. She ran. He ran after her. She was unable to get away, unfortunately. She gave a good run, but at the end of it, she got her throat slit too. And he took them, pulled them off to the side best he could, covered them up with grass and leaves and stuff. They were eventually found and reported.
And he only got $1,800 off of that one.
Yeah, just $1,800.
Killed 2 girls.
Yeah.
Sad. That's so sad. They discovered the bodies of Michelle and Angela several days later, leading to an investigation into their disappearance and subsequent murders.
Yeah, they actually got a lot of good forensic evidence off of that. There were multiple pieces of DNA that they found. He dropped a rental card from Steve Hampton.
Okay.
And his thumbprint was found on it.
Dumbass.
Yeah. Idiot.
Yeah, he left evidence.
They didn't have his information to compare it to.
They didn't have Jose yet.
Jose to confirm it.
He was probably still in the hospital a month later or something.
Jose got really messed up on that one.
I'm sure.
He was
17. I bet he was in like ICU or something. I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Bleeding out. Yeah. I imagine he came very, very close to dying. Didn't even really take that much to hide them. Just, some leaves, probably sticks and grass, straw. Yeah.
So respectful.
Yeah. Pretty interesting how he got caught. So they were looking for him for sure. They had the description of the car. They had kind of a good sketch of what he looked like. They were taking and making sure to stake out all the different fast food restaurants and stuff just to make sure nobody was there that wasn't supposed to be. This is where he messed up. He went to his boss's house from Shoney's. Remember how we were talking about him working as a dishwasher?
Yeah.
He went over to his boss's house at Shoney's, telling him basically that he wanted to apologize and get his job back. And he was serious about this. He really did want to get his job back. Well, Steve brought him inside and told him, hey, let's sit down and talk. So they sat down, they talked. He told them how apologetic he was for throwing the plate and that he lost his temper. And he highly was sorry for it, basically.
Yeah, he regretted
and asked, if he could get his job back, please, and that he would not mess up again. Unfortunately, Mitch couldn't do much about this, which is the guy that fired him to begin with. Told him it wasn't up to him. It was up to HR.
Right, and HR wasn't having it. That's kind of a...
So, after being told, basically, that he wouldn't give him his job back, that he would have to go and talk to HR, Paul didn't like that. He got a very different look on his face, according to Mitch. And so Mitch asked him if they could step outside and talk about it a little bit more, maybe get some fresh air. So as soon as they got outside, They talked for maybe a minute more, and Paul attacked Mitch. Now, he didn't have his pistol on him, so he wasn't able to pull it out and shoot him like he would the other people. He didn't have a knife on him, so he was basically just trying to grab him and throw him in the car. Mitch got away. He was able to get inside and slam the door in his face. And this is what he did. He actually said that he told his wife to go get the gun. Go get the gun. Go get the gun. It scared Paul. He didn't want to get shot. Right. Obviously, nobody does. So he ran off. But here's the thing. They didn't have a gun. He bluffed.
Good.
And got away. Yeah.
Good for him.
Totally got away with that bluff. That was a good one, man. I have to say it. If you don't have a gun, you might as well bluff and say you got one. Never know. Maybe it'll work. Just a tip for you guys later on. Maybe if you get attacked by a serial murderer that likes
act like you have a pistol. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Just act like you have a pistol at least.
This is my method.
I
also have a pistol. But if you look crazier than they are, it works. Every time. Act like you got a pistol, even if you don't, or carry a pistol if you believe in your Second Amendment rights.
This is what got Paul caught. He called back to his boss. He was pleading with him to tell him, basically not to tell on him. And he was apologizing, telling him, I'm so sorry. It won't happen again. Well, the police were already at Paul's house. They basically whispered, get him to come down. Paul decided to come back, and he had Mitch waiting on him. And a whole squad of police officers that took him in. Yeah. Once he was taken in, there wasn't a whole lot he could do about this case. The case was very, very solid.
Yeah, I imagine so. He's got Jose, right?
Yeah, Jose.
You're right. During the trial, and he testified.
All the forensic evidence that's in the
which
car.
Is crazy because this was the beginning of forensic evidence in the 90s. It was an exciting time.
It was late 90s, early 2000s, actually.
Yeah, so it was
exactly when we were starting to get good at it.
Right. We were advancing at that point. Late 90s. We were super into forensics.
So there was a lot of forensic evidence against him. Eyewitnesses, all the stuff that was in his car, the thumbprint on the rental card. He had no chance at defense whatsoever.
Yeah.
The investigators that talked to him, they said that he never actually confessed to it. Never confessed to it.
But Paul was a cold-blooded killer.
Oh, yeah. They said he expressed no remorse, no regret, never confessed. He actually talked to them and said that he liked them.
His defense attorney argued that he suffered from mental illness, obviously,
which he did.
Emphasizing his troubled upbringing and psychological findings. So they really struggled to convince the jury of his mental state.
Yeah. Due to the fact of how bad the murders were,
right?
There were 7 of them.
Yeah,
he slit both the girls' throats, so that was pretty violent.
Yeah,
they had a slam dunk case against this guy.
Yeah, and his verdict obviously was guilty. He was found guilty on multiple charges of first-degree murder and other charges too.
Aggravated robbery.
Several. Just
see what else.
Smear the cake.
Basically.
So
7 death sentences is what he got for that.
So he's got to be reincarnated 6 times.
Yep. He's got to die and come back a few different times and get hit by old Sparky.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's rough.
He did appeal it though.
But he did appeal. He had a direct appeal after his conviction. Yeah. He had filed a direct appeal to challenge the verdict. They raised several issues, including effectiveness of legal representation during the trial.
Every single time.
I didn't have competent representation.
Yeah.
You might have the best damn public pretender you ever had. You don't know.
Yeah, but if you got somebody pointing you right out from the witness stand, I mean, that's kind of damning evidence, especially with the forensic evidence, the thumbprint. I mean, how are you? You ain't explaining all that.
You can't explain away the evidence. The state decided.
No, they rejected his appeal.
And this was in 2002. They rejected his appeal.
But he got an execution date set.
He did. And they tried to go for post-conviction relief at that point.
He had multiple stays,
Yeah, they denied him on that one, obviously. So, they kept presenting the evidence at trial and were like, no.
It went all the way up to the Supreme Court in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And they rejected it all the way up.
Reid's legal team pursued federal habeas corpus. I cannot say that. Anyways, Reid's legal team had his appeals denied. He ended up ultimately getting
His
a
death
date.
sentences, yeah. Well, he didn't ever die execution. He
Uh,
was in prison for life.
yeah, of course they keep them on death row so long, and they run out of appeals, and then bam, they're like
Well,
70, 80 years old, ready to
I
die.
mean, I guess if you're on death row, you kind of are on prison for life. You know, I mean, in prison for life.
Yeah, your life's gonna end there.
Yeah.
Had multiple appeals, and they focused on mental health, his brain injury, all of the things. And overall, let's just highlight again with mental illness and brain damage. I mean, this is a
Every
common
single
component
time, it seems like.
of serial killers. Definitely.
He died on November 1st in 2013. He was taken to the hospital, actually, in Nashville. Whenever he was taken to the hospital, they actually had to have guards surrounding him 24/7 because people couldn't tell whether he was faking the illness or if he actually had it. So they had people guarding him like, I mean, they shut down a good little section and everything just so they could make sure he did not escape or try to. Yes. Wow. And it was there that he died from a pulmonary embolism.
Yeah, and he had known heart condition.
Yeah. He got to serve 14 years of prison and then die.
Yeah.
Not through Old Sparky.
Yeah. So what do you take from this?
Don't try to become a country music star. Apparently, it will turn you into a serial killer if you fail.
What?
Plastic surgery, brand new guitars, music lessons.
Champagne taste on a beer budget.
Justin Parks was going to be big shit.
Yeah, Justin Parks.
That's right.
Oh, he didn't make it.
He had the first name down right. He just couldn't get the rest of it down right. But all in all, Paul Dennis Reid was a good example of why it's so important to pay attention to the signs. Like I said, he slipped through the cracks. People did not really take seriously the warning signs that he had before all
and
this
he
happened.
got let out of jail for overcrowding once again
against psychiatric orders from 7 different doctors, y'all.
How?
7 different doctors.
How did they let people like this just slip through the cracks? It's beyond me. I don't.
Courts make mistakes, I guess, but I mean, that's not really a mistake to me. That's complete just negligence of your job, man. Yeah. Like, if you got 7 psychiatrists telling you that somebody is a complete danger and will commit a violent act if let out, you probably ought to listen to them.
Right.
Probably ought to listen to them. Yeah.
Yeah. 7 of them.
Paul was a great example of that. They did not pay attention. They did not care. And we lost 7 people due to that. Yeah. If they had been paying attention and they had listened to the psychiatrists and heeded their warnings, then we would not be where we are today with 7 more people dead. Yeah. They tried to link him to other murders too.
Really?
His alibi's actually checked out on those. So
yeah, I had that thought too. Like, was it just 7? But he kind of had the same memo.
He just seen where he fucked up with the steakhouse, and he just said, from now on, just gonna make sure nobody's left to testify. Yeah, he fucked up though. He left one.
Jose.
Thank you, Jose.
Man, I'm so proud of you, Jose.
If Jose is still alive today and you see this man, good job. You're the real MVP, man.
For real though.
Paul Dennis Reid was crazy, man.
Yeah, and the guy from Shoney's too. Good for him. Yeah. Good on him.
Paul really tried to play it up in court too.
Yeah.
He tried to attack his lawyer in court.
What?
He actually put a paper hat on his head like he was folding paper and put it on top of his head. What the
hell?
Yes, I swear. You can look all this up. This is true information, guys. Like,
he should have been in an institution.
Yes. Oh, most definitely.
I'm sure they medicated him in there until he died, though.
This is really surprising, but often with serial killers and people that commit violent crimes, most people said he was a really super nice guy. And in prison, he was a super nice guy.
I love these like multiple personalities.
He got along. People got along with him. Even the investigator said that he said he really liked them. The only thing that he gave up that was even close to him confessing or something was, would you guys not like me if I had been the shooter?
What?
Would we not be friends?
What? Who would say that?
Paul Reid, I guess.
Yeah, he ended up dying before he could even face this fate. Which, honestly, I feel like he got his sentence.
14 years. He served 7 too, so he spent 21 years of his life in prison.
And where he should have.
He should have stayed there. He should have stayed
forever from the first arrest.
He should have been institutionalized after the first arrest. But
agreed.
Yep. And that's the story of Paul Dennis Reid.
Yes, it is.
Fast food killer of
Mhm.
Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, interesting case.
Yeah,
I had
very
fun this
interesting.
week with this one.
Yeah, definitely.
It was interesting.
Paul was very interesting.
Fast food killer.
And not only that, but the victims are kind of interesting too in the way that some of them kind of seen it coming.
Weird. Yeah,
Very
the whole
strange.
premonition thing was
Yeah, that was very
strange.
Ronald's really rocked me, I think, just because his brother saw that years before it happened.
Yeah.
Years and
That's
years.
wild, man.
Yeah.
Wow. We will see you guys next Wednesday, 7 p.m.
Central Standard Time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.